with SOFREP Radio, and I am super pumped today. First of all, I'm in London celebrating the Jubilee for the Queen, and I'm getting ready to go over to Normandy and try to check out Dunkirk. But my guest, let's talk about my guest, okay? I have Cameron Haynes. He has wrote the book Endure. Keep hammering away. I want to welcome you, Cameron, to SOFREP Radio, and to our listeners out there. Welcome.
Thank you. Well, it's good to be here. Good to meet you. I'm pumped to have a nice discussion.
Yeah, exactly. Let's just jump into it. So let's talk about your grandma. Okay. So I'm reading your book. Thanks for getting that over to me. And I'm a mama's boy and a grandma's boy. And tell me how much love you have for her and putting into that first backcountry book of yours where you had to you repaid her. I want to bring her up. Tell me.
Yeah, no, I did. I don't know. You know how grandmas are. I mean,
Yeah.
if you're lucky enough to have a grandma, I had two of them actually, and they were both super supportive. One was a school teacher. The one you're referring to is my grandma Ruby. She's the one who loaned me money for my first book, gave me $15,000.
Right.
Paid her back. But she was always, I don't know. I mean, I just would go work on the ranch over there. So my grandpa was very hard. She was always like that, supportive, but she was very tough too. She was part Indian, part just hardworking Oklahoma ranch person
Sure.
that moved to Eastern Oregon. And so she was supportive, always loved me, always supported me, but still tough in her own right. So
So
I
do
miss.
I love that you call her out in that, and that you said that you paid back family, and it's kind of a thing where family's like, hey, can you loan me? It's like, yeah, where's that back? And you did that. But I think that when you start to hit on your book has a couple different titles to me. May I?
Yeah,
Endure is what you chose, and I love that. But I also think Passion would be a good novel or a name for your book. Also, Solitude would be a good
yeah,
name for your book. And so, but endure, you have to endure, all this passion inside yourself to
yeah,
put it out there. And you put it into writing at a young age. You talk about that, and then you brought it into these books where you're like, hey, I'm not telling you really. I don't want to tell you all about the book. I want you to go buy the book and check it out, right? Because
yeah,
I could sit here and just spit all of it back at you, but
yeah.
to tease my listener, you know, you're like, I'm not telling you what to do, but yet,
Right.
and I love that point of view.
Yeah, that's been my whole thing. Still, even today, I still struggle with feeling worthy, feeling I do get a lot of attention now. And this book is actually, I didn't really even know if it was going to be good. I actually was reading this book, like doing the audio. I'm not an audio guy. This is what you do, so I mean, you're great at it. But I hate being on podcasts. I like hosting a podcast like what you're doing because
Right,
if I'm expected to be the interesting person, I'm like, oh boy, I just don't like it. I like talking to interesting people. But
right,
point is like, so I was doing the audio for this book and I was reading and I was like, is this book even good? I mean, of course, everybody thinks that their story is interesting, right? I mean,
right.
everybody's like has this big whatever. I came from this, I overcame that, and everybody's got these why they're special. Everybody thinks they're special, and I'm like, am I just is that me now? I think that people are going to care. Why would people care about what I've done? So I've struggled with just wondering whether I've done anything noteworthy because I've trained with like a Goggins or Olympians or these UFC fighters, and I'm like,
Sure.
well, that's very measurable. You went to the Olympics, you are a special human, right? I've never done anything, so I trained with them. I haven't
Right.
done that. So, but the point, I think what I'm seeing now with the reviews on the book and all the messages from people is like it's given the average person, which that's what I say I am, hope that they can maybe achieve something special. Maybe all hope isn't lost, and because they're not seeing themselves on TV, or maybe they're not going to the Olympics, or maybe they're not. That still doesn't mean that if year after year, decade after decade, just putting in work, you can't have success and stand out in your own way. And so that's the moral to the story, really.
Yeah, and it's true, and I tell people on my side as an entrepreneur, I own a couple businesses here in Salt Lake City, and I'm doing
Mhm.
okay. And it's like, if you're passionate about it, you should follow that, right? So whatever you love so much, that's what I invest in stock wise. So if I love to eat, certain potato chips, I'm going to invest in that company. If I love to play a certain video game, I invest in that company. If I like that, I'll invest in it. If there's a gym that I want to invest in, that's how it is. So it's like, if you're passionate about it and you believe in it, and it's not, I mean, I don't know how you're going to let it fail if it's all you know.
Yeah, and that's also the thing. So I took something bow hunting, which why would a bow hunter ever be celebrated? But where I was from in a small town, it's like hunters were like they were kind of respected, looked up to. Did you go get your buck this year? And you got meat in the freezer, and hey, you got any steaks you could spare us? And so that was like hunters were respected. But in the grand scheme of things, because hunting and our culture is changing so much, it's like it seems crazy to take something as niche or as unique as bow hunting, and that's what I'm getting attention for. I mean, some of the biggest athletes in the world are sending me messages saying that my book impacted them. I'm like a bow hunter. So that's the moral. I mean, what you're kind of saying is like, you follow your passion, and your passion can lead you to who knows where.
Other people's passion.
If it's in your heart, it's and I think I've noticed that with people. That draws me to people. If you see somebody's passionate about something, it makes you interested in it, right?
Right. It's true. It's 100%. It's like, oh wow, you do this. You're so into this. Tell me a little bit more about it, and chances are that person will. That's what I've learned, is that if I just say, hey, tell me about your business, it's like, well, Rad, my accountant the other day just like totally just didn't do the numbers right. And I'm just like, all right, business analysis. I don't know if I'm ready for that today. But really, and something else. So growing up, my father was a Green Beret.
Okay.
And growing up in the 80s, the number one compound bow hunter in my life was Rambo.
Yes.
Okay. All right. It's the twisting of it, it's the latching it up, and it's the pulling it back and drawing it, and the arrow tip, everything. He just the ultimate hunter right there.
Right. Yeah.
And my dad got a compound bow. He was always into recurves, right? And if you don't know what a recurve is, listener, a recurve is where you have to it's kind of like your archers on the ramparts of a castle where they shoot off of it. That's a recurve bow. One string. You have to kind of bend it in a funky way to put it on and leash it. And then a compound bow has multiple strings, some bearings, and a pulley system. And so I think my dad always had it like at 75 to 90 pounds. And I was little. He's like, go ahead and try. And I'd sit there and I'd try to pull, and I couldn't. And he'd pull it, and then it'd go right back. He's like, what's your problem? So I finally got it to pull back, and then I let it go. And he's like, you never do that ever again.
That's a dry fire.
Yes.
That's not a dry fire. Yeah.
I didn't know. I'm just saying, learning my lessons, right?
Yeah.
So then we wake up, and it's 5 a.m. He's like, let's go. And he takes me out to these ponds in Kaysville, Utah. And there's 3 ponds, and he's now got a reel on his bow, on his compound.
Oh, okay.
And he's hammering at carp, and he's got this, it just goes right through, and it prongs open, and it pulls them right through. Dude. Yeah. So in the 80s and 90s, that's my life, bro. And so when you're sitting here saying you're going out bow hunting, I know a guy that bow hunted, so I get you.
There you go. Yeah. We used to go carp fishing all the time, me and my buddy Roy. And back in Oregon, there's a lot of black bear, but they outlawed baiting for black bear in 94. Before that, though, we'd go and we'd get these carp, and then we'd use those for bear bait. But we used to go out and love just wading out through the water, and you'd see the carp. They'd be spawning, so you'd see them in the grass, and the grass would be all rustling around, and you'd like read the water and where the fish was, hit it, and we'd use that for bear bait. So I've done some carp bow hunting myself, bow fishing.
And then it's early in the morning, my dad would either be out running a marathon, down in St. George, or training to run with a rucksack 6 to 8 miles with like 60, 80 pounds in the back of it, up and down the streets and stuff. So, and I would just ride my bike with him. So I've really seen these guys with that extreme athleticism like yourself, right? Okay, you are an extreme athlete, whether that gold medal hangs around your neck, it is there, right? So you're putting yourself through these paces, maybe to make up for it. And your book really pulls you through solitude, because as you're growing up, you're going through some difficulties in your family. And I just want to let you know that I did read it, and I really do think that, you going off to your grandma's house, 20 miles away, and just God, read the book. You guys have to read this book, okay? Because you're just going to feel it. You're just going to read it, and you're going to enjoy it, and it's good. So I have a hard time reading a lot of books. I'm not the biggest.
Yeah.
I talk a lot.
Yeah, no, I understand. Well, you can do the audiobook.
I do. I do that. As a matter of fact, I do that pretty well. I just think that you wrote a really well written book that talked to me. Okay. And
thank you.
Yeah.
And that with my grandma too, and doing all that, it's like, so that was most of my life. And kind of the message in the book is that there's a saying, born to lose, built to win. And I was like, I felt born to lose, but I definitely didn't feel built to win for many years. And then all of a sudden I was thinking, well, maybe all this struggle and all this heartache and, not feeling like I belong, maybe this has built me to win. And so maybe it's given me that edge. And I talk about that in the book too. It's like, my mom could read that book and think that, God, what
did you do?
She failed because I was so unhappy, right? And it's divorced parents, and didn't like the stepdad, just wanted to try to fit in somewhere, and she could feel like she failed. And I had to reassure her that no, because I went through that's why I'm who I am, and I wouldn't want to change anything. But it's like there's times when you're going through life and you're like, I just this life is going to beat me. It's going to beat me down, and I can't take it anymore. And that's what it felt like for a long time. And then once I changed my mindset, and it's just like, this doesn't have to define me. And then it's all about overcoming. Then it's all about seeking out challenge. Instead of saying, this is beating me down and this is going to break me, it's like, no, I want to seek out that challenge. So that's what the second half of my life has been about, is seeking out, like your dad. I'm actually fascinated about your dad.
Oh yeah.
To be Green Beret, dude. Yeah. That's freaking hardcore.
It is.
Your dad has been a badass.
He was. And I have that to live up to on my own lineage, right? Like my own legacy to leave out there. And so he knows what I'm doing, because before he passed away, he got to see me grow into who I am pretty much today. And so I'm pretty proud to know my dad knows I'm doing the right thing and carrying on his last name.
When did he pass away?
2013, Friday the 13th, September.
Oh, man.
Yeah, it's tough. Right before my birthday, I was turning I was a young, I'm 44 now, so it's been a minute. And but Green Beret, 63, heart condition. You give the military a healthy, able body. They put you through checks and tests, and he got lots of training and investment put into him, and then you just drop a couple guys wrong on a night drop or on an airborne jump, and they all get jacked up, and then all of a sudden they try to recover from that, and it's kind of a downhill process. And so the military can spit you up real quick. And so that was something I wanted to mention to you is, do you do anything with like these vets that are coming out, and they want to go out and bow hunt? Is there any type of place where you're getting pulled into that these days? Because I think that would be a really cool thing if you're not already doing it.
Yeah. I've obviously, David Goggins is a vet. My son's actually in the military right now, and I was just talking to him right before I got on with you, and I said I had to get off and do this, but
thank you.
He's a Ranger in the Army right now. So I did Jocko's podcast. I feel like I've done the Black Rifle podcast. When I talk to those guys too.
I own their stock, by the way.
Oh, do you? Okay,
yeah, of course. Yeah. I'm just telling you.
Yeah, you and Joe Rogan.
I'm just telling you, bro. Yeah.
The stock market's taking a hit lately.
I don't even want to.
I know, but it's a long game, right?
Yes, exactly. It's a surfing wave, bro. I just ride it. That's it.
So I have so much. I don't feel even worthy when I'm in talking to veterans, people who have served the country, because not only they're beasts, but they actually signed their name on the line and said, serving my country is more important than whatever goals I have, and it's like, my son, from everybody else to your dad, it's like, I can't even talk about how much respect I have for that commitment and that just honoring our country. And that's why our country is as strong as it is, because of men like that.
Well, it's the volunteer military that makes us the best. We have, because they want to be there. They choose to be there. They say, I will be here and I will do this, and I understand why. And
Mhm.
so that is better than some type of forced situation where, you hear this on the streets, like, oh, we should have a forced military. I'm like, nah,
Yeah,
I'd rather have the guys want to be there than not
exactly.
want to be there.
Yeah,
So what do you do
yeah.
with that one?
But
Um,
yeah, you're right. The military is coming out as a big transition for people who served.
yes.
I mean, they're living at the pinnacle, right? I mean, I can imagine anytime you do something exciting, even coming back from wherever to regular life is a transition. So imagine being at the pinnacle of military service and then having to transition back to a regular job and regular life. Of course, that'd be hard, but bow hunting has given guys like that an outlet to
Right.
channel their focus, and it has been great. And I've shared plenty of camps with military veterans, and love just communicating with them on social media has been a great avenue for that. So yeah, I'm a big proponent of helping those guys when I can.
That's awesome. I think that some of us out here started shooting arrows, at least myself, in Boy Scouts. And so, as my father, he kind of said, you're going to get into Scouts. And I followed that step and went
Yeah.
through. And then every Saturday morning, he would send me up to the park at 8 a.m. I was like, it's so early, Dad. The sun's coming up. He's like, go. And it was to practice with this guy that was teaching me how to do archery all the time.
Oh,
Yeah,
nice.
yeah, yeah. And so I had to go to my archery lessons. And so he really was a big believer. So I didn't really think, okay, I was like, okay, I get this book. It's called Endure, and I'm like, all
Yeah.
right, let's see what this Endure is. And I start reading it. I'm like, oh, compound bow. All right,
Yeah.
stop shooting a rifle. Okay. So another thing my dad as a trick was he'd go hunting with a Mauser back in the day. And he only went one time because he got the deer, but we didn't really eat it. And he said,
Oh,
he's like, son, if you guys aren't going to really eat this deer, I don't really want to take the deer. And I said,
right.
okay, Dad. We'd go out on hunts and he would sit me out. I'd be a spotter and he'd kind of fall asleep. And he's like, now just scan. And if you see
Yeah.
anything move, you just nudge me. But he always bring two bullets. That's all he would
Oh,
bring is 2 rounds.
really?
Yeah. One for the first shot. Because
Yeah.
if he missed, he figured he'd scared everything.
Right.
A second one for the way back to the truck. So if he saw one on the way
Oh,
back,
gotcha.
then he would
Yeah.
pop it. So he'd only take 2 rounds with his 8 millimeter, 7 millimeter Mauser, German Mauser.
Yeah.
I mean, the scope must have been. Now that I think about it, with today's modern scopes, it's just so
Yeah.
crazy. But
Well, it's still, I mean, it's still the hunt. I mean, even
yeah,
though compound bows have changed a lot, it's still pretty much a close range endeavor. I mean, so I still want to get 40 yards, even though the equipment has got so much better. And I don't rifle hunt, but I know rifles have improved in accuracy and
oh, to the
everything.
point of like you're so far away. It's like what you're
Yeah.
doing is like the whites of their eyes. You're like
Yeah.
right in there. You got the scent
Yeah.
on you. You don't want to smell like anything
The
other than the
closer you
tree.
can get, the
Yeah,
better. And
yeah,
that's actually the challenge, is because animals are very good at staying alive.
right.
That's their focus every day of the year. So when you're trying to get out there and get within their red zone, it's a big challenge. But where you grew up, that is a big hunting state. I mean,
Yeah,
Utah is
Utah.
a great state for hunters.
All
I
the
mean,
kids would always get out of school
yeah, yeah, yeah. They used to do that back in the day. Yeah,
every
they close.
October.
Yeah, I know that's changed too, but that's exactly how I grew up too. It was a small logging community here, and it's like that week of opening, right after opening weekend, it's like football practice was
The
pretty
next
thin.
thing, yeah, yeah,
Yeah, because everybody
yeah.
was gone hunting with their family. But anyway, it's hunting is definitely started there, and now it's like I said, just from social media, for example, the craziest request I had for wild game meat, which that's kind of a thing now, is like, people are thinking about, wait, how is this meat, like
Right.
cattle raised and farmed and everything else? So anyway, it was funny. Lionel Richie's son, which I would never expect this, Miles Richie, I sent him some elk and bear meat because he was like, hey, he goes,
Wow.
I follow you. I've been this and that. This is like the most random connection. And I said, you follow me? I said, okay, you want to try some elk meat? Because as a hunter, to me, that's a big thing. And I talk about that in the book too, is I feel like hunters are providers. So I'm like, that this is our community now. Social media is the community. If I can be a hunter and I have some meat, I'm going to share it. And so he loved
Sure.
it. It was it's just, it feels so good as a hunter to be able to provide to others.
And that's another thing about providing food and exactly. I was wondering about that because, like I said, we didn't really go after that first deer my dad got as young kids, and he tried to make a goose happen as well, and we didn't really, because it was our own goose. So I was mad when he cut that. I wasn't there. My mom took me out to the store, and she didn't know he was going to do it, and he just like did his thing to the goose. She was so mad, dude. My mom was the maddest I'd ever seen her. She was not very mad at all. And but he put
dad was trying to form that connection between food and providing, and animals die for us to survive. I can see he was trying to do that.
Yes, and he was, and and he did as a later on in life. He went through a couple of bouts of like going vegan, not going vegan. Not Diet Coke.
Yeah.
Stop drinking Diet Coke, anybody. Please just stop drinking that stuff, okay? Just stop putting poison in your body. Water, H2O, quality, please, please, please. Yeah. I'm just speaking from my dad's perspective here, okay? Yeah. But, he tried all those things. And I think what he put into me was an understanding of where food comes from, where your electricity comes from, what this roof costed to put over your head, how to be an entrepreneur, how to not waste, right? He didn't want to shoot something if we were going to waste it. And so he made that very clear to us. And so I really loved your book, and it really has maybe keep hammering. You talk about that in there, right? You're like, what? It's just like hammer away, it's just like, keep hammering. I'm over here in London, and all these things that are chiseled, they're all hammered away at, bro. They're not just like, no one just poofed those up 3,000 years ago.
So much history over there. Yeah. And no, it's hard work is definitely the key to whatever success we have in life. It's going to take commitment and hard work. I did want to go back to the food and the connection. And, one thing that I've read is that Americans throw away 40% of what they buy food wise, including meat, 40%. So it's just like, we've had it so good here. We have, if you go to another country, I mean, maybe not London, but like I've been hunting in Africa multiple times, and they'll say, they're like, hey, so life's good in America. And I'm like, I mean, we just take it for granted how
for
good
sure.
To them, America's like the promised land. Yes. And here we are. We have so much. We're throwing away 40% of that. So when I think of an animal's dying, like if we're buying steaks and like I see people eat half the steak and it's like throw away the rest of it, is once you have that connection and like your dad was trying to get to you guys, is that there's perspective. Let's have perspective on what's at stake here and our role in it. And it's just like, as hunters, I know hunters, they don't, you're taught, I take the skin off, I get the hide tanned, I keep the antlers so I have antlers right up here in this room, and that, the memories of that hunt and that animal is honored right there. Sure. I have the meat, of course, is cherished. I love giving it out, but it's definitely not going in the garbage. So if nothing else, hunters are taught to value that animal's life, not just the memories of it, but also what it's yielding to us with its flesh, which is meat. And it's like that. I like the hunting aspect and just what that's taught me, because maybe without hunting, maybe I would be the guy scraping off meat and throwing it away,
Right. And the other thing is like, what makes you buy what's in a store? When you go to the grocery store and you look at all the food that they've been putting in your face for all these years, it's like, where'd the deal get made to buy that? Where did the store go to Las Vegas and go to a trade show and meet some guy at some club and do a deal in the back room about your meat? Okay. And so all of a sudden here it is right there. And it is a big thing to know, farm to table. Okay. Whether you're vegetarian or you're going to eat straight up all meat, you want to know where it's coming from into your body, and in Alaska, they believe that the spirit of the animal, when it's hunted, and I kind of I follow this. Okay. And so I if I had to eat a lot of mammal, I would in this way, which is I would hunt it. And then once I got it, I would clean it, take it, and put it back to where I had killed it so it could continue on with its journey. I do like that mentality up there, with that culture of the indigenous people of Alaska. I don't know. You've been up there. Is that something that you found up there?
They're definitely connected, more connected because it's more wild for sure. I mean, people of Alaska are tough people. They're hardy people just because it's harder living. You know, I mean, I went and stayed in San Diego. When I did Jocko's podcast, I was thinking, God, if I lived down here, I'd be so soft. It's so nice every day. It's like sunny and just so comfortable. So, you know, I think we gain as humans by being in a challenging environment because it does make us tougher. And so one thing I've noticed, I've done seminars up in Alaska, and I'm looking out there talking about bow hunting, and I'm like, how am I telling you guys survive up in these elements? You should be telling me how to do it.
Right.
But one thing, I mean, I do like that connection because I think what people who don't hunt, and I'm not saying everybody has to hunt, and I think how you've kind of connected the dots on, you follow like the people of Alaska, how they honor the animal and the journey of the animal.
Correct.
But I think as hunters, whether you hunt or you don't hunt, whether you're vegan or non, or vegetarian, whatever. But like for me, I just want it to be known that as a hunter, which I've hunted my whole life, I don't actually enjoy the killing aspect of what I do. That I feel like that animal has sacrificed itself, and I'm going to respect that. But I don't shoot and I don't put an arrow through an animal and I'm not just like smiling and laughing. I mean, there's a life at stake. That animal offered its life.
You're grateful.
But I'm grateful for that. And it's just like, I have so much respect, and it's like a bittersweet, somber moment for me too, because I love animals. It's like, I love nature. I love knowing that we're part of it, but the killing part is just part of what hunters do as part of the journey.
Correct.
Because you mentioned the journey, and made me think of this. It's like, yeah, killing is a necessary part of being a hunter, but it's not the only part. There's so much more to it, but that's a part. It's not the most enjoyable part for me, but it has to happen because if I'm going to get that meat out to people,
you gotta be a surgeon. You're like carving it up. You're like, okay, this is the quarter hind, this is the chuck, this is the round. You like, gotta know quick too. You gotta clean it in the field.
Right. When you hit an animal with an arrow, I have to go up and read the blood and see what kind of blood it is to see my arrow, where it hit. Did it hit lungs? Did it hit liver? Did it hit stomach? Did it just graze muscle? So you're almost a biologist in some ways, and you're kind of reading this, and it just makes you so much more in tune. And then just by proxy, you're going to have respect for how that animal lives and what it survived. And then when you go, and like I said, I don't expect everybody to hunt. I'll do the killing for you, but just respect what it took to make that happen. Here's 100%. The meat, enjoy the steak, but just know that there was a sacrifice made for this to happen.
And you know,
we don't always get that when you go to the store and just buy a cellophane wrap steak. You know what I mean?
100%. And that's exactly my point about what you're putting into you is, you know, who told you to put that? Like, who's the guy that made the deal? I've been to trade shows in my own industry, and I know how deals are made. And so it's only no different in the food industry. It's like, hey, Bill, you want to go on a cruise? Buy all this steak from me and put it in your store, and I'll get you on the cruise. I get it. No. So it's like what you're doing, harvesting, okay, something so, and I'm only being so sensitive because, you know, I'm a mammalarian. I really don't eat mammals myself, but if I had to, I would. So I guess I'm a triatarian. I'll try to do whatever I need to live. Okay, if I have to. But if I'm at a store, I necessarily don't have to buy what they're forcing me to buy. I can eat what I want. You know, and so if I'm out in the woods and I lived in Alaska, guess what I'd probably be doing? I'd probably be going after the things that made me eat. Okay. Yeah. So that's me kind of like in a nutshell. And I love what you do because you're processing it. You know, I don't see any type of like, you know, organization being upset at this. It's a hunt, it's a harvest. You're taking the animal, you're eating it. It's not a bad thing. It's just not. And living in Utah, I've just become acclimated to that too. So
yeah, and I think it's part of it too. I mean, we're talking about Alaska a lot, but it's like when you have to survive, like I said, I mentioned that the elements are more challenging up there. But when it's like you get down to it and like, what does it take for us to survive? Well, when it's harder, you're going to need denser food. You're going to need more protein, nutrient food. So if you're, like I said, living in San Diego, going to the beach every day, you could probably get by on salads. I mean, that's all there. You could have nuts, salads. You're not you're not
It's all made
surviving.
for you. It's all made for you.
Yeah, you're not surviving a winter in Alaska. If
No,
you're surviving a winter in Alaska, you better have some good steak. You better have some salmon you're going to catch
right.
out there.
That's
And so
right.
I think that kind of influences, you know, what are we, what are we subjecting ourselves to in life? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's like, we're lucky where we have choices, where you can go to the store and you can say, yeah, I don't need that. I want this. I want that. That's great. That's great. I love that we have those options. Some people, like in Alaska, they're going to have to do whatever it takes.
Exactly.
And it's just like, and they're going to kill the caribou and it's going to fill their freezer. And that's just the way it goes.
It's going to fill their freezer and probably their neighbor's freezer. Those are,
oh, for sure.
Those are village kills. Those are like, we're happy. Yeah. They're happy to have that because they will turn everything from that kill and what they don't like into something usable, and what they don't, I think they just put it back on the trail, kind of in the area that they had took the kill, so that it can continue on to its journey, to be brought back into another life if they will believe in that aspect,
Yeah. When I've been to, like, we killed this buffalo in Tanzania, and it's like you look at the birds there, and in, I would say so clean the animal, got the meat off. Then there was some bones. There's the guts and things like that. Those are gone in a half hour. So you talk about this circle life. 100%. The birds, the scavengers, there was nothing left in a half hour. So it's like in the wild, there's no waste. There's no waste going on at all.
Exactly. And so that's kind of like a cool, connecting way to gather your food, right? I'm all about that. And so I think that's really cool. And you do talk about that in your book, even though you say you don't talk about that in your book. You talk about that a little bit in your book.
Yeah, I may have touched on it. Yeah. Well, it's just such a big part of what I do, and I'm passionate about it. I mean, and I understand. I put my life out there, so I'm going to get people who don't understand. I mean, people who like you haven't grown up in Utah, maybe they've been in cities their whole life. They're not going to understand. As in a hunter, sometimes we take photos. So we achieve this long-earned goal. We've been maybe dreaming about this hunt forever. It's a big challenge. We accomplished it. So you take a picture of the animal. For non-hunters or people who haven't grown up around hunting, they're not going to understand a picture with a hunter smiling with the dead animal. They're like, what? This doesn't even make sense. This doesn't make sense. To hunters who've been doing this their whole life, it makes perfect sense. It's like, that was very hard to accomplish that. He's happy because he can take meat back to his family and his friends. And so it's like the summit of a mountain type thing. But to people who don't get it, so I understand, and I get, because I put my life out there, I get people who attack me online for, for killing animals basically, and threats and vile language. And I understand. I mean, I get it, because it's like when you just get a snapshot of what I do. But I think if you look at the big picture, and maybe I can't expect everybody to read my book, but maybe listen to this discussion.
Maybe. I think that me and you,
maybe it'll make more sense.
Maybe because they'll understand that, hey, Rad's saying like it's a right of like gathering. It's hunting and gathering. You have to do this. You're not running a butcher facility like with 1,000 cows coming in and out of it. You're not just doing that to any other. If I would love to have that conversation with anybody in any of these organizations. It's true. It's like, come at me. We all hunt or gather.
Rogan's done a good job of explaining that too, because his audience is so diverse, and so he's good with that, and we're making a little headway, but still, I do understand why it's hard for some people to get, who haven't been around it.
Well, you and me, we do get along. We grew up a lot of the same era, and I eat one way, you eat another way, but I have no ill will or ill anything about how you hunt and gather, because you don't have any problem with how I hunt and gather and what I do, which is what you say. Don't tell me what to do. I don't tell you what to do. So don't tell me what to do. So you want to come on my page and tell me what to do when I'm not going on your page,
No, I got respect. I mean, you talked to me about your thought process with the foods you eat, and how how your body, how you survive this life. And it's like, I got nothing but respect for that. I don't expect you to go hunting. It's fine. It's like, I can respect what you do, and it's great. I want you to be happy. You want me to be happy? We're good.
Exactly. I don't mind hunting something with a heartbeat. I just prefer them to be, like 6 foot tall, 2 legs and 2 arms, running around in a war game scenario. So I don't mind hunting
Yeah.
heartbeats. A little chess is always good for me, and I do that very well here in Utah. So,
Yeah.
maybe I get my hunting out in that aspect because I do a lot of war games, so many, and these guys are like you and Rogan
Yeah.
and Brandon Webb and all these guys get together with combat gear and we fight each other. It's like, oh, you think you're cool? That's my dojo.
That's awesome.
Right. So
What
go ahead.
What are you doing over there? You said you might go to Normandy too.
Yeah, I'm conscious to come here till the 10th of June, and so D-Day was June 6th, so I might catch the Eurostar that goes under the
Yeah.
English Channel and go over to Dunkirk. If I can't make it to Dunkirk because I'm working with SOFREP while I'm over here, my posse and as an ambassador, I might go to the cliffs of Dover and then report about how May 27th, Churchill scrambled all of the people, civilians, and basically ordered them to get all of their boats, fishermen boats, and take 800 to 900 boats across the English Channel to Dunkirk to rescue 300,000 of their army personnel who were trapped, being pushed into the ocean by Hitler and Mussolini. Right? Okay, so I mean, like, what the hell? Who are they hunting? And so you got all these 300,000 troops, and then they only had a 4,000 cash saved. And Winston Churchill's like, we only have 4,000 military personnel in the UK at all because they had the whole army over in France. Trapped, right? So you probably know, and it's Dunkirk. And so there was a movie about it with Harry Styles.
Yeah,
I love that. Gotta love Harry. And then especially in London. And then again, though, I'm going to go over there. I got my GoPro and get some clean steady cam footage and throw some stuff up on SOFREP and let others see what the area is like, just kind of that thing. So that's what I'm doing. Yeah.
And I love that history. I mean, I've just been watching. I mean, history, it's like, I don't know if I wasn't paying attention in high school, but it's just like I've lost so much, or I mean, I'm learning so much lately. And I think maybe from experiences like what you're going to show, I've been watching, there's this series about the Civil War. Just, I don't know. History is, I don't know. I feel like we need to celebrate it more and not even maybe just not celebrate it, but just give it the exposure it deserves. I mean, it's these men and women sacrifice so much, and it's why we're here. We got to shine the light on it.
Seriously, there's an author that's traveling. I think Jack Carr's traveling over right now with like a whole group, of World War II veterans, bro. Like, I'm over here with my wife.
I know. He said I sent him a message the other day because his book came out.
Yes.
It's a fiction book, but it was #1. And so on Wednesdays when the New York Times list comes out, so I texted him. I said, "Hey, are you still #1?" He said he was I think that on Wednesday on a plane taking 30 guys back over there.
That's right.
And with his daughter was going, and just an amazing. I mean,
well, big shout out to those guys. Getting the experience.
Oh my God. I know. And probably for the last time, really.
Oh, 100%.
They've been in the game for so long.
I just talked to this 100-year-old veteran the other day on a podcast, Lucky, and his name's Lucky, and he goes by Damn Lucky's his book. And 100-year-old bomber pilot, dude, 25 missions over France, Germany, 100-year-old. I was like, they're like, Rap, we have him available, but the soonest is this. I was like, 10 a.m.
Yeah.
10 a.m. What's the first day? 10 a.m. I'll take it. And so, and also thanks to you for working around with all my schedule. And I know you're super slammed and busy getting pulled into lots of serious podcasts, dude. And thanks for taking the time to be on mine. I'm really stoked about that. So
I felt bad because I was like, the whole book thing came out and then I was just doing all these podcasts, but then I was back to my 9 to 5. And so they're saying, oh, can you do this and that? And I'm like, well, I'm at work all day.
Right.
I mean, Monday through Friday from 7 to 5. I'm, 10 hours.
Are you still at the power company?
What's that?
Are you still at the power company?
Yeah, I am. Yeah. So I've been back at work. So they say, well, how about Saturday evening? So here we are, Saturday evening. I'm not sure when it is over there, but
I don't even know.
So
we can be here together.
I thank you for being flexible with me, and it's just like had to work around that 9 to 5. But I don't know. It's been a great discussion. I thank you so much.
You're very welcome, and I'm as flexible as my snowboard, okay, when I'm hitting the snow. So again, adversity, putting yourself out there, staying in the elements, being in 60-mile-an-hour gale winds on top of a mountain, blowing snow in my face, growing my beard so it gets thicker up there. It's those types of adversities, hunting my friends with their heartbeats while they're hunting me. I don't win all the time. I get shot just as much, so it's like this, what can I do better? How do I not get, cardio.
There you go. Yeah.
It's cardio,
isn't it?
Zombies, cardio. Hunting other people, cardio. Going after that deer on that long hunt. So my dad was always I don't want a four-wheeler. He's like, no. He's like, that's not hunting. He's like, that's not. He's like, so then he got out of rifle hunting and he got into bow, like I was telling you, just to revert that back. And he started taking his compound out. But he had these tips. And one time I touched it and I was just bleeding, bro. It was so sharp, so sharp. Yeah, these tri-tips. He kept them in a special case, but I had to see them.
Oh, I understand. No, that with an arrow, that's the big difference between an arrow and a bullet, where an arrow will kill by hemorrhage. So that's what happens oftentimes is, like, if I'm hunting a big bull elk, I'll make a perfect shot. The arrow will go through the elk, 800-pound animal. They're used to getting jabbed and by antlers and fighting and all this. Sometimes they don't even know what happened. They're bleeding, their blood pressure drops, and essentially they pass out, but then they die from blood loss. Whereas and they never even really knew what happened. Whereas a rifle, it's a loud report. It's a bullet will kill by shock and damage. Yep. And so you definitely know they've been shot. That's where I think almost a perfect shot with an arrow is almost a beautiful death, because the animal doesn't even know what happens, and there's no animals making it out alive, right? Everything's dying. Everything, it's either going to be starving or by a predator or by fighting another animal. Right. So, like, to me, taking an old bull that's lived 10 years in the mountains and it's served its purpose for the herd, and then if I offer a perfect shot like that and it's essentially a painless death, that's as good as it gets. Where that's a big difference with the rifle. With the rifle, it kills from damage, shock.
And you might even ruin the meat. You might even ruin the meat with the round,
Ruin some of it. Definitely ruin some of it with the bullet. But
for sure. Especially if you're a bad shot.
I did. When you were talking about cardio earlier, I mean, and all those challenges, and there's that saying where fatigue makes cowards of us all.
Yes.
I mean, you can be the biggest badass ever, but when people get fatigued, it's just like, take me, I'm done.
I'll tell you right now, the one thing that I told my wife while we've been in London, we've probably done about, yesterday we did about 32 kilometers, and then today we did about, I don't know, that's about 22 miles yesterday. We walked all over, right? We didn't realize what we were doing. And then
a lot of steps.
Then I got a blister on my pinky toe, and I got that back in New York too. We walked a lot.
Yeah.
Okay? And at the end of the day, I'm like, oh, it's not going to kill me. It's like, I told my wife,
died from a blister.
I told her that. She looked at me. My wife's like, yeah, you're right. And she don't know where I got that from.
Right. Yeah. No, she thought it was a great saying you came up with.
Yeah. Thank you.
But it's true. It's like we focus on, and that's what I've noticed a lot of times on these hunts. It's like, it's not the blister, but it's like a lot of little things stack up, and then you're like, that's when you want to throw in the towel. But if you just focus on what the one thing, like the blister, it's like, I'm pretty sure people have overcome much greater things than this, including you have, right? I mean, that's a lot of, you guys are taking a lot of steps and seeing some great country, I'm sure.
We are. And the thing is that, I got the blisters yesterday, and then again, we went out today and we just humped it again. And we were just like, again, I just said, no one's died of a blister. And she just and my wife's hardcore. She's like, I'm built for walking. And I was like, oh shit, here we go.
Her feet were fine, huh?
Oh yeah, she's doing good. She felt a little bit on her knee at the end of it. And I said, well, that's because we're getting tired at the end of our trek, and we start to walk with a weird gait, and we're starting to like slug ourselves back to our hotel. And then that's the injuries. And so today was a little bit of an Uber day. And so it worked out. Yeah, we got to see Princess Diana's fountain and the
Really?
Kensington Palace. I kissed her in the King's Palace. So it was
Oh
very,
man,
yeah, right. Not about, but it's really
Di.
cool.
I love
Yeah.
Princess Di.
Hey,
She was
she is, and it's awesome to know all of her kids are here right now too. And there's a lot of vibe going on. Everybody's here, and it's a big pageantry, and the Queen's still alive, so that's a
I
cool
heard
thing.
she's sick though, right? Isn't she's not part of it or what?
She didn't get to go. She didn't go to the festivities, but she's been watching, and they're just cheering her for her 70th year of reigning and trying to keep the crown, respected. And
Yeah.
where there's also the other side here. Let's bring that up real quick, where they're like, hey, you guys are taking our taxpayers' money and you're giving it away to people that we don't approve of to cover up these dealings. And so, there is that aspect, but I think the aristocrat and most of the Brits over here are proud to be British right now. And I'm so stoked to be over here. And it's very almost America.
Yeah. I mean, just the history part of it. It'd be just to be part of it. I've never been there before, so I'm jealous that you're able to experience it because it's history.
It is in the making, and you should come over. It's not so bad as you would think, and it's just a quick 9-hour straight flight. So you might get a little business class out of it from someone, so you might want to put that in. Let me ask you a question. So I put questions out on my social media and just kind of wind down our conversation here. And one of my guys, Anton, he asked me, he said, okay, well, I'm stoked you're doing this show with you. And he says, do you use any supplements to help you move out and keep going with your endurance? Is there anything that you use,
Mostly I wild game meat for the most part. And
Okay.
It's just like what I say in the book is like your body gets used to what you ask of it. So I've been doing this for so long, my body is pretty good. I mean, but I don't drink. I eat wild game meat all the time. I watch my sugar intake and do all that. And then I do supplement. There's a company in Utah there, Mountain Ops. My son works for them. They're a supplement company. So I do supplement with protein and BCAAs to replenish after like a long run when I've went through a lot of, sweated a lot and things like that to try to replenish that. But for the most part, it's just living clean. And then 30 years of doing it, my body is kind of like how, let me think, like shoe leather tough. That's my body.
Right. Yeah, you just trained yourself to endure that. It's so true.
That's it. It's just time in the saddle, essentially. But yeah, I try to live a pretty clean life, though.
Well, let me see. Okay, perfect. Thank you, Anton. James has a question. Let me see what it says here. It says, James says, let's see, how much sleep does he get? That's the question. That's you.
Yeah,
so,
no,
tell it. Yeah. 3 a.m., dude, you're up.
I don't get much because I have a full-time job. To train for endurance events takes hours, so I mean, and then I have a family. It's like right now we're watching The Last Dance, watching Michael Jordan's story again. My daughter hadn't seen that, so I do want to spend time with them. So if I have to give up anything, it's where it's impacting my family as little as possible, impacting my work. I'm going to give up sleep because that only impacts me. And so I don't,
you'll sleep when you're dead, right? Yeah,
right.
Pretty much.
My body is used to that too. I know, I understand not everybody's in that position or, my immune system's good. So I never get sick, but I think part of it is because of my diet too, because of that clean meat that I eat from my kills. So I've been pretty lucky, but I sacrifice sleep and to get everything else done.
Yeah, I would imagine you have to, because you do have a pretty booked solid slate. If you're running even a marathon, that's 23 point something miles. And then if you're even doing it, 26.2. I don't run the marathons. I just kind of guess at them.
It takes time. It takes time.
It does. You got to train. And, and you're running a 100-mile, 24-hour endurance run. They have that in Utah across the top of the mountain peak where you can run the whole mountaintop. My high school teacher used to do it every year. I remember he would train. Yeah, the Wasatch Run.
Yeah.
Yeah, the whole top of the mountains. Yeah, they'd run all the way across the whole mountains there. And that's just like, wow.
Yeah. I know there's some tough people out there, dude. I mean, and you know who's the toughest of in those endurance events? And I talk about them, one of the best in the world in my book, but women are so good at endurance events. I really think that their bodies are made for childbirth so they can deal with pain. They're way tougher than men. I mean,
Oh
it's
yeah, for sure. There's no doubt about
a man's
it.
probably going to be faster and maybe stronger, just let's on average, but
Skeletal frame.
endurance wise and just like mental toughness, women are incredible.
Yeah, and I'll kind of give you a story about my dad. Speaking of women, when he was in the marathon, he said that this one lady, I remember he's like, I was behind her, and all I could do is just watch her ponytail. It was his like metronome of like,
Yeah, yeah.
and she was in front of him, and he's a Green Beret, and she's in front of him, and he's a Green Beret, and she's in front of him. You know what I'm saying? And he's just like, she's keeping pace. He blew himself up that week because he ran 10 miles a day thinking he needed to amp it up for the marathon. But he did too much in the week. And then when the marathon came, he ran it in 4 hours, and he was thinking that he could run it probably a lot less. But he realized
your dad's mentality. Your dad was a freaking beast. I got a lot of respect. I mean, I can see just in these few little stories about his mindset. It's just
there's more. He tried to train me for the biathlon too, bro. I've been all around cross country skiing and hitting the dirt, trying to shoot a rifle at the target. It's like,
you had a tough job being the son of a Green Beret. It doesn't get much tougher.
No. And the fact is that he worked right next door to my junior high. So every day it was just like in his office. It's like, dismantling RPGs and whatever that were all like mock weaponry and all of the training profile. I would read everything. I just sat there.
But look at the stories you got.
I know, right?
If your dad would sold insurance, what stories would you have?
Yeah, really. He did work at Kmart. It was like the time after Vietnam, he got into Kmart.
You got some great stories.
Thanks, bro. Well, listen, I would love to have you back on the show. I've taken a lot of your time, and I really appreciate you jumping on. And I want to shout out to Brandon Webb for saying, hey, Rad, go get Cameron Haynes on the show. And I want to shout out to your hat. It says Rogan Haynes 24. Yeah. All right, dude. Just tell him to legalize weed, and I'm in. Just across the board. Just make it all happen.
Hey, if it's up to him, he would make it happen tomorrow.
That's what I'm saying. Just make it happen. Why hasn't anybody made that happen? You all talk. All these guys are talk.
This is the archery pro shop here in town. They made these hats just like as a joke, and so they said, "Hey, do you care if we?" I said, "Yeah, me and Joe don't want any money. Just do whatever you want." She sold so many of these hats because people are like, "Yeah, Rogan Haynes 24," and so she actually was so slammed. She's like, "I'm done. I don't want any more money. I can't do it anymore. It's too crazy." So shout out to the Bow Rack.
What does it say to him? Shout out to who?
The Bow Rack in Springfield, Oregon.
Hey, are you working with any charities that you want to give a shout out to, or anything that you want to give a shout out to real quick? I'll give you like a little bit of plug-in time right now, bro. Website. Yeah,
God, charities. I don't know. I usually just try to, like, people always ask about what I do with my old bows. I usually just give them away. So, I mean, I try not to, I don't know if I had to, a charity, who would a charity be?
Well, it could be someone maybe reaching out to you and just like, saying hi, that's charitable right there, bro. You can give your own, what's the word where they stand in the park and they say what they have to say? You can give that advice.
Soapbox?
Yeah, that's it. Let them have it. Give them what they want. If they ask you, can you help me? I'm depressed or anxiety. I'm sure you've been through depression and anxiety.
No, I've had a lot of people, because they know that I've come from, whatever. Everybody has challenges, but they reach out to me a lot. And I want to be able to help people. And I had so many people that guys were actually contemplating or just had suicidal thoughts. And I'm like, I'm a bow hunter. So I had to actually talk to a doctor, and I said, what? I want to help these people. I can't live with myself if I don't. They send a message. They say they're, struggling with this. I said, I want to know what to tell them. So they said, okay, so here's what you do. Somebody who's depressed and thinking about having thoughts like that. You say, if you can just help them get through a few hours, because everybody goes down and they're not down forever. They're down And if you can help them, like, hey, can I check in with you in the morning, or can I check in with you later tonight?
Exactly.
That's going to buy some time. They're going to come out of that, because nobody stays at the bottom forever. So it's not going to be as bad as it's like when they make that decision, when they think it can't get any worse. And then that's when they make the decision, and you can't come out of it. But if you can get them through that little trough right there, it's life,
Been there, done that.
around. It's not as bad as it was.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's what I've had a lot of people reach out to me, and I love it. I mean, I don't love it because I want to be able to help more than I'm able, but I did get some tools to help people, because cool. I've struggled not with suicide, but I've struggled in life wondering how I fit in. So I get it. And so because of that common thread, I think about maybe feeling, like wondering how you fit in this whole world, people do reach out. And man, I do all I can. I wish I was more skilled at it, but I appreciate all the people out there. It's not always sunshine and rainbows.
Right.
I understand people are struggling at times.
Hey, what's your Instagram handle? Is it just Cameron Haynes with the blue check mark, Mr. Verified? Is that what it is? Huh?
Yeah. I think if you put in Cameron Haynes, it'll come up, but it's like, I think it's Cameron R. Haynes is my actual handle, but if you put in Cameron Haynes, it'll come up. But yeah, I mean, I love hearing from people. I'm no different than anybody else out there. I probably get more messages now than some people do, but I love what social media has. I mean, we wouldn't be talking if it wasn't.
Here we are. Yeah, exactly. 100%.
I'm so thankful for being here for each other, and just being able to offer support to people, and then also celebrate people like we're able to do here.
Well, what a great note to wrap up on. And I want to say thank you so much for being on SOFREP Radio. And, to our listener out there, if you have any questions or crazy thoughts, reach out to me at RadRockin' on Instagram. And I've talked to people, and I'll say hi, and, thanks for tuning into SOFREP Radio. And I'm going to give a sign off saying, from London at the 70th Jubilee for the Queen, peace. And thanks for listening.